Erik Ten Hag will be sacked if we lose to Southampton this weekend, according to Louis Saha. Ronaldo slams Ten Hag. Man United reported £113 million loss. Interesting revelations regarding the Jarrad Branthwaite deal in the summer, and Casemiro is unhappy again. This plus all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video. And let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with the financial. You've probably already seen these, but Manchester United released full-year financial results, reporting record revenue of £661.8 million for the financial year ending the 30th of June 2024, and a net loss of £113.2 million for that year, partly due to investment in the squad, transfers and wages. For those who don't know, the PSR rules allow clubs to have a loss of £105 million over a 3-year period. Obviously, 113.2 million is a lot higher than 105, but apparently Manchester United are not worried about that because some of that is women's football team, which doesn't count, infrastructure. So obviously we're doing up Carrington. There was some fees that went into the financial, to the takeover of the club as well. So apparently United have come out briefed and said, yeah, we're not bothered, or we're not worried about being at a disadvantage for PSR rules, which is good. So the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules allow for a loss of 105 million over a 3-year period, but United claim that inside that limit when allowable losses such as investment in infrastructure, academies and women's football are taken into account. So that came from the Manchester Evening News. The interesting one, though, that actually I caught up from the Manchester Evening News, and this is the one that annoyed me the most. It said interest cost hit £61.8 million for the year, while the club also spent £47.8 million on costs incurred in relation to the £27.7 million sale to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That annoyed me a little bit. Look at the interest cost. So for the privilege of having the Glazers owning Manchester United, it costs Manchester United £61.8 million last year in interest payments on servicing the debt that those leeches have put us in the first place. That's absolutely shocking. That's a player. That's a top player every season just in interest payments for having the privilege of the Glazers owning Manchester United. Absolutely infuriates me. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Like, the sooner we get rid of those, as soon as the Glazers leave, it'll be the best thing for Manchester United. £61 million just in interest payments on the debt for Glazers owning us or buying us on debt in the first place. Ridiculous. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let's move on quickly to the Ronaldo stuff. You might have already seen this as well. Ronaldo came out with some quotes saying that Manchester United need to rebuild everything, in my opinion. The coach, they say they cannot compete to win the Champions League. United coach, you cannot say that you're not going to fight to win the league or the Champions League. You have to mentally say, listen, maybe we don't have that potential, but I cannot say that we're going to try. We have to try. So he kind of came out criticizing when Erik Ten Hag said that United are not in a position to win the league or win the Champions League yet. But then, which I kind of agree with, but then I think Ten Hag's in a situation where he's damned if he did, damned if he didn't. If he did come out and say, yeah, we're going to compete for the Premier League and the Champions League, I think most people would have called him delusional as well. So it's one of those, I can see Ronaldo's point of view where, yeah, maybe he could have come out and said it differently, but ultimately it's the same thing. They're both saying, well, they're not in a position to win the league and the Champions League. It's just one said it directly and the other was like, well, maybe you should have just said, well, we're maybe not in that position, but we'll try. It's just a play on words, in my opinion. The interesting thing about it, though, is the Garnacho situation. So Garnacho Fabrizio Romano posted it on his social media. Garnacho liked it. That could get him in a little bit of hot bother, but I don't necessarily think it was a criticism against Ten Hag. He was just saying, well, as a Manchester United manager, you shouldn't really say we're not going to win the league or win the Champions League, which, it's just petty, isn't it? I just don't, none of it makes sense to me personally. I'm not really interested in all this kind of social media and liking posts and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But it's caused a bit of a stir. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then the other the other kind of quote that Ronaldo come out with, which was interesting, saying that if Ten Hag listens to Ruud, maybe he can help at Manchester United. I think that he can help a lot because he knows the club, and the club should listen to guys who were there. This is on a 5 channel, by the way, when he's speaking to Rio. So he said, you, Rio, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, or Gary Neville, whatever, Sir Alex Ferguson, you cannot rebuild a club without knowledge, not guys who work in office. They understand. So effectively, Ronaldo's saying that Ruud van Nistelrooy hopefully will help the club because obviously he's a good coach of that as well, but obviously being a former player knows how it works. And again, I'm not really interested on whether we've got staff or people involved that used to be at United. I couldn't care less as long as they're the right people for the right job. That's all I care about, and getting the best in class. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And keeping with best in class, and also in terms of the financial situation, Manchester United are close to getting Mark Armstrong, who from PSG. So L'Equipe have said PSG's head of sponsorship since 2018 is set to join Manchester United. Armstrong, who previously worked for the FA, NFL and NBA, played a key role in boosting PSG's revenues to meet financial fair play rules. James Ducker from The Telegraph, who's a good source, said that discussions are underway to appoint Mark Armstrong as Director of Business Development. United are looking to appoint someone to oversee all the commercial aspects. Apparently he's done really well at PSG in terms of it boosting their commercial growth, to help with their financial rules and profit and sustainability rules and FFP and all that stuff as well, which is interesting because when Sir Jim came in and took over the club, the reports were always that the Glazers would still continue with the financial side and the commercial side of the club, and that Ineos and everyone would be involved in the footballing side. But that sounds like a business decision. So is that driven by Ineos? Is it, obviously it's come from Blanc, I think, kind of recruiting him in. So it's interesting. So does that mean the Glazers are relinquishing a little bit more control over the financial side of United as well? Could be, but apparently he's meant to be really good. It'll only help us getting that sort of specialist in, though, especially with PSR rules. Obviously, we've just brought you the report of the losses and the need for us to try to get more income in to service the debt, and to obviously the more money we can get in as a football club, the more we can spend on the pitch as well. So that's only a positive, in my opinion. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments. I brought you news the other day around Casemiro being unhappy, and then another report's come out from the Manchester Evening News today saying that Casemiro is frustrated with how he has been treated this summer, reports say, having been effectively replaced by Ugarte and seemingly singled out. The midfielder is unhappy with being deemed the weak link. Dropping him against Southampton could create even more friction, with the Plata believing that he is being made a scapegoat, which... I think Casemiro's only got himself to blame personally. Like, I don't think he's being made a scapegoat. He's just really been really bad for a long time. That's my opinion. I don't think, in my opinion, I think the system doesn't help, because Ugarte coming into this system is not going to solve it. Our midfield will still be open. He might be a little better than Casemiro in that role, because he is a little bit more mobile and he's a little bit more aggressive, and so I do think it will help. But I still think if we carry on playing with the midfield so open, Ugarte's not going to solve that issue. So I do kind of agree that it is a tactical issue as well as a personnel issue. But I've no sympathy for Casemiro, being honest with you, because he's not been performing. It's not like it's just happened since this summer. He was terrible last season as well. He had the opportunity to leave in the summer, decided not to. So I don't see what he's got to be unhappy about. Do you know what I mean? Like, he could have left in the summer if we've got suitable offers, or he could have reduced his wages. Do you know what I mean? Put himself about if he really wanted to. So I don't feel any kind of sympathy. I don't see Casemiro being used as a scapegoat. I think a lot of the criticism towards him is fair and genuine. He's lost his legs. He looks like he's running in treacle some games, and yes, I do think the system is not helping him, though. To kind of just put that point across again, but it wasn't the system that made him play the pass to a Liverpool player against Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't the system where he received the ball in half and ran forward and got tackled from behind. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't the system. That was your own individual errors, in my opinion. But you can share yours in the comments, but I don't see what Casemiro's got to be unhappy about, and I don't think we should be bowing down to his demands about playing and being upset that we've bought Ugarte to replace him because, you know, he's 32 years old and not been very good for a very long time now. So I don't see what he's got to be unhappy about. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now, the next story I've got is regarding Jarrad Branthwaite and the progress that Ineos think that they've been making over the summer. So this was really interesting. Come from Rob Dawson, who's a credible source, saying that Everton quoted £75 million for Branthwaite, citing Gvardiol as their marker. But Barada saw Branthwaite as a level below when factoring relative lack of experience. Gvardiol had already played in the UEFA Champions League and was one of the standout young players at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. So that was interesting from Rob Dawson, but basically saying that Everton Everton wanted £75 million for Branthwaite, and they were kind of using Gvardiol as the benchmark. But Barada was like, no, he's not worth as much as Gvardiol was because he's not played in the Champions League and he's not made many international appearances as well, which is fair enough. I'm glad they kind of stuck with their guns on the Branthwaite valuation, which also helped us, which Rob Dawson also says in a second. But just to stick with Branthwaite, he said that Branthwaite would have been signed if Everton had reduced their demands, but United were not prepared for negotiations to drag on, and so decided to move on. And, you know, I think that was the right decision, rather than letting negotiations drag out. Again, previous regimes would have let that drag out all summer, and then we might not have moved on to De Ligt or Lenny Yoro or any of our other targets. We would have been still negotiating with Branthwaite until the last day. So there is some progress made there, in my opinion. And then Rob Dawson also said that United's recruitment operation believed that the discipline shown regarding Branthwaite eventually helped get a deal over the line for Ugarte, with PSG holding out for a fixed fee of $50.7 million. United made a point of referencing their interest in Branthwaite and threatened to walk away, just like they'd done with Everton. So Rob Dawson said, and we said this in the summer, didn't we? A lot of you were agreeing in the comments and shared your thoughts on it as well, basically saying that we need to, like, short-term pain, long-term gain. Walking away from certain deals will have a longer-term benefit on United than just overpaying or stretching the negotiations out as long as possible. And it looks like that was the case with Branthwaite as well, where United kind of said, well, look, we wanted him, we've walked away because they're not lowering their price, and we're more than happy to do the same for Ugarte. Really interesting, I thought, as well. And you know, that was something that you were sharing in the comments as well, so fair play. Now, in overall then, so Rob Dawson also said that the point at which Manchester United knew they were making progress in the summer transfer window came in mid-July, with Matt Hargreaves, Director of Football Negotiations, locked in complicated talks with Marseille over a deal for Mason Greenwood. United were also pushing ahead with an agreement to bring in Lenny Yoro. And in previous years, according to the club sources, United would have been focused on reaching one agreement before beginning work on another, but with Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, and Jason Wilcox in place, an expanded capacity to complete deals began to pay off, and United ended up announcing both deals on the same day. So Rob Dawson kind of, you know, that's a really interesting point from Dawson, because that's what we would have done in the past. We would have spent all summer working on one deal. It's one deal at a time with United in the past, wasn't it? It was, oh, well, we need to get this deal done, then we move on to this one, then we move on to this one. And that's why we could never get things done or weren't very efficient in the transfer market. But obviously, according to Rob Dawson there, because we've got the other people in, football experts doing football things behind the scenes, more than one person doing one job as well. So you've got multiple people that can work on different things at a time and multitask. Became a lot more efficient in the summer, which is good, because we ended up getting 5 players in and sold 10 was it, I think, or more. And I don't think that would have happened under previous regimes, because like I said, we'd have probably spent all summer just negotiating on Branthwaite, and eventually paid the £75 million that Everton wanted for him anyway. I think that's generally would have happened if it wasn't for the new kind of footballing structure. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Really interesting updates there. Well, let's move on to what Louis Saha had to say. So Saha's come out with some quotes from Betfred. So we asked if Ten Hag could be sacked with the defeat of Southampton. Saha said, I think so. Against Liverpool, the issue was the performance rather than just the result. So Erik Ten Hag's under pressure because the team isn't playing very well. I agree with that. There were no signs during the game that things were going to be fixed on Saturday. If Southampton are able to dominate against Manchester United in the same way that Liverpool dominated last week, then the situation would be untenable for Erik Ten Hag. I agree with that as well, being honest. There's a lot of people in punditry and the media, as well as the fans, who are seeing things that they can't understand when they watch Manchester United at the moment. I agree with that as well. We saw Arne Slot and Liverpool destroy the tactics of Erik Ten Hag in their last game. At this moment, it's not about personalities. It's about seeing a plan that the players can identify with and cause damage with as well. So that was all Louis Saha. And to be honest, I can't argue against what he said there. I think that's something that, you know, did it in my match reaction, said it in my match reaction as well. Do you know what I mean? And obviously the reports over the last few weeks, mainly coming from the Muppeteers and stuff, are pretty saying a similar thing, where it's style of play. We need to see that style of play. We need to see something on the pitch where we can kind of get behind and think, okay, well, that's the vision. That's the idea. That's what we're trying to achieve. Because at the moment, nobody can kind of pinpoint exactly what we're going to do or what system we're going to play from game to game as well. And it's unsustainable playing football like that. You can't build a squad and a team and have a vision if you're constantly just swapping different. Like, yes, you need to tweak it depending on your opponents. I'm not saying I'm naive enough to say, well, we have to play exactly the same way every week, because teams will suss you out, and you know, you've got to kind of tweak things to suit your opponent a little bit as well. But again, we're not really seeing anything, and so I agree with what Louis Saha said there. But let me know whether you do or not in the comments. Right now, we've had links with an interesting player. So Manchester United scouts were in attendance at Spain's under-21 game versus Scotland this weekend to watch Sevilla's Juliano Sanchez. That came from AS, who are actually a fairly credible Spanish outlet. Really interesting player, actually. I'm not one I've watched loads, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend to say that I know everything about him. I don't. Watched a few highlights and done some research and prep for the video, but a really interesting profile player. He's 21 years old. Can play as right back and as central midfield as well. He's got a release clause of around £17 million, played 18 league games last season at right back, and has started this season playing in central midfield. So he's can play in multiple positions, very highly rated, good ball player, would fit the mold of being young, up and coming, cheap as well, £17 million. Madrid are very interested in him as well, and they often don't miss on young targets, apart from Euro. So could play that maybe inverted right back role if needed to go into midfield, or could be coming in as a boost to the midfield as well. So would be a very interested option. One would definitely need to keep an eye on. Again, it's just one kind of Spanish report, though, at the moment coming out, AS. They could be using United as a way to boost interest and get views, or it could be coming from Seville's side to generate interest from Madrid. Do you know what I mean? So we do need to bear that in mind and wait for a bit more credibility. But would be an interesting profile of player. Let me know what you think in the comments. So that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I do enjoy reading them. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.